And welcome to Portsmouth, home of the Royal Navy. Today we're at the city's historic dockyard, where 6 heat winners and the wildcard winner are lined up in front of Victorian megaship HMS Warrior. Batten down the hatches, it's the semi-final of Landscape Artist of the Year.
For our 10th anniversary, we've once again built our pods, primed our canvases, and faced a typically British summer.
Literally holding everything down.
With 48 talented landscape artists from across the UK and Ireland. Over 6 heats, our artists were confronted with everything from gritty urban cityscapes and feats of Victorian engineering to sweeping mountain vistas.
This is possibly one of the most daunting landscapes in Britain.
Now 7 artists remain.
I don't really know what I'm feeling right now. There's too many emotions.
But only 3 can go through to the final and be one step closer to this year's £10,000 prize commission for the Courtauld Gallery in London. The winner will be travelling to the south of France, a region that has inspired some of the greats of art history, painters like Monet, Van Gogh and Cézanne. As always, the task of picking the winner falls to our judges. Kathleen Soriano, Kate Bryan and Tai-Shan Schierenberg.
I'm waiting for that next stage because at the moment it's tipped slightly into something very conventional.
And we don't like that because
It's boring.
So as the pressure mounts, who has got what it takes to hold their nerve
So stressful.
and paint a semi-final winning masterpiece?
I don't like to say I'm confident that I'll finish, but I'm hopeful that I'll finish.
Taking on today's challenge are our 6 heat winners.
How are you feeling about today?
I'm feeling pretty nervous at the moment.
Well, I'm hoping that the blue sky's going to come out.
I'd quite like it to stay pretty flat like this, actually.
Yeah.
Podcaster Molly Lemon, a printmaker who works and lives in Gloucestershire. Susan Isaac, a professional artist based in Nottinghamshire. And Kieran Guckian, a web designer turned full-time artist from Dublin.
To be in the semi-finals, amazing. Like, I never expected to even get into the competition, but to get into the semis is brilliant. Great feeling.
Also competing in the semi-final, Ben McGregor from Surrey, who runs a bespoke furniture company. Barnsley-based artist Sarah Stoker, and Claire Rose, a professional painter from West Wales.
Is this the sort of stuff you usually paint?
Absolutely not, no. What about you?
No, much more like trees and organic stuff,
Yes.
and there's literally not a tree in sight.
Our 6 heat winners aren't the only ones to have made it to the semi-final. At each heat, we were joined by 50 wildcard artists, who this year pulled out all the stops to be noticed by the judges.
Are you both left-handed?
No, just me.
A wildcard winner was selected at each location.
Congratulations, you're a wildcard winner today.
It's you! You're our wildcard winner!
But the judges could only put 1 through to the semi-final.
I think we all agreed that you're a rather marvellous painter.
Really?
And they chose Rose Dufton.
I think Rose really stood out in amongst all the wildcards that we'd had. She's got this really fresh, light touch. It's very feathery, reminds you a little bit of the Impressionists. And of course, you have to really step up, take your courage in your hands as the chosen wildcard to go into one of the pods. She's up against the best of the best.
It means a lot to be in the semi-final. I just did not expect to win. It feels really surreal. I've watched Landscape Artist of the Year every season, so being part of the show feels like a bit of a dream. Being in the pod feels very different to being a wild card. This feels a bit more intense.
But even if you've been in a pod before, it might not be plain sailing.
You're gonna need help.
It's quite overwhelming. I think today I need to just keep calm. I remember panicking quite a lot last time. So I think I just need to keep focused.
Attention artists, you have 4 hours to complete your landscapes and your time starts now.
We've brought our semi-finalists to Portsmouth's historic dockyard, home to some of the UK's most iconic ships and a busy working harbour. In front of them looms the magnificent HMS Warrior, flanked by Portsmouth's Spinnaker Tower, modern-day tower blocks and the busy and blustery waterway.
We're in Portsmouth Historic Dockyard. There's an enormous ship. We've got HMS Warrior. I mean, that really is the star of the show. I don't know if the artists fully appreciate quite how much things are going to change today. It's not our first rodeo. We've dealt with the Tide before and Landscape Artist of the Year, but today is quite spectacular. I mean, the ship is going to be raising by a matter of meters, and if they were trying to get in all of those beautiful struts on the pier, they're going to be gone, like, in a matter of hours. So we really need the artists to tackle not just what's in front of them, but what might be changing dramatically in front of them. I don't know where the artists are going to go with this. Are we going to get something which is all about the ship that takes us back in time, or are we going to have something very much about today, about Portsmouth's historic dockyard, which is very much now a tourist destination?
I'm loving the view today. It's really cool. It's an amazing ship, a lot of history in it. It's quite a complex thing, you know, especially a rigged ship like that. So lots of things to think about.
So today's view looks really quite complicated, quite draftsmanly. So I'll have to work hard at creating a decent drawing to begin with. And the rigging, it's an awful lot of rigging there to contemplate.
It's a really difficult composition, this one, because it's quite flat in some ways, but there's lots of verticals and lots of shooting perspectives. I'm trying to really impart the scale and the enormity of this place and trying to get that sense of here in my painting.
Claire Rose is a professional artist from St Dogmiles in West Wales. Her ability to master composition and scale impressed the judges in Snowdonia.
Claire, I can't quite work out what you're painting. I've been looking at you drawing your lines. I understand the rigging and the triangles, but I can't understand which section you're going for.
So I've gone for quite a broad view of the Docklands. I've got the big ship on the left, and I'm trying to get this sense of scale with the masts, and then this lovely diagonal to this little tiny boat on the right.
So the one at the front?
This little boat here. I'm trying to get the scale in.
Oh, I see. So, the ship's going that way,
yes.
And that's the pier.
Yes.
OK, got it.
I haven't quite got these angles right, so...
OK. I mean, you put the pier quite low down, haven't you?
Yes, the horizon's quite low, because that gives me the scale.
And is that partly you also anticipating that the water's going to rise up?
Yes.
So we won't see the supports of the pier underneath?
That's a really good point.
So I'm definitely shying away from the enormous ship. I've placed my canvas very neatly in front of it, so I can't see it at all. I'm more drawn to the decaying docks and the textures, the water, rather than the actual ship itself. I'm hoping I can show the judges perhaps something slightly different to everyone else.
Ben McGregor is no stranger to the pressures of a Landscape Artist of the Year semi-final, as he previously made it to this stage in the competition in 2021. He triumphantly returned this year to paint Hampton Court Palace and stood out from the crowd with his playful, surreal painting style.
Morning, Ben.
Morning.
What do you make of this view? Tiny little ship view.
The view is epic. The ship's epic. This building here is epic.
Yeah.
So I've gone for something that's, like, completely un-epic.
What have you gone for?
I'm doing around this pier bit here.
The struts of the pier.
I love this sort of decaying concrete, and I love the way the water sort of flows around this kind of island of steel.
I love artists. Like, we've given you this, and you've been like, look at that weird little bit over there. I love that, please. Obviously, the tide's an issue today, and I suspect you're going to lose all of those struts.
Yes.
So have you got photographs?
I've got a picture in my mind about how I want the painting to look now. So I'm sort of confident that once the water comes in, and also it'll give me a chance to sort of perhaps play with abstraction a little bit.
It's better. So composition-wise today, I'm kind of zoomed in a bit on the two masts, just to try and get those shapes, which are kind of interesting. And also I want to get those kind of blocks of apartments in the background. It's just the new against the old is kind of nice.
Kieran Guckian joined us in Bristol, where he painted its world-famous suspension bridge. The judges were impressed by the strong narrative he was able to convey, whilst only committing a sliver of the bridge to canvas.
Kieran, in Bristol, you found a story that was not obvious. What's the story today?
I guess I'm trying to focus in on those two masts and the buildings in the background.
At the moment, it's not quite clear that we're looking at the mast of a ship. It's interesting that we're giving you this massive bit of history, but you're combining it with modern.
Yeah.
Is that the story that you picked up,
Yeah.
or is it about making paintings first and foremost, or is it both?
I like a bit of a story. I mean, this is a really historic place, obviously.
Yeah.
Very historic ship. So I like the way that there's kind of, I wouldn't call them brutal buildings, brutalist, but they're quite blocky and modern. So I think they're kind of interesting in the background.
I think they're quite revolting, but but I can see as a
Shape-wise, they're good.
shape-wise they're great.
Yeah,
I can see-
shape-wise, they're good.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, it sounds fantastically organic and also sort of slightly hit or miss in an interesting way.
Well, hopefully it'll be hit.
No.
After the first hour, I'm feeling really anxious because that's gone very quickly, really, really fast. I've got such a lot to do. What have I done there?
Now I've worked out exactly what I'm painting. The anxieties of how it's going to kind of progress have kind of lifted slightly.
I'm still blocking in, which is bad. I spent a lot of time on the background of the clouds, which is good, but now I'm going to focus on the ship and just the foreground, especially down the bottom with the quays. I was leaving that to see how much the tide would come in, but I'm probably just going to tackle it now.
Lined up in the shadow of Victorian megaship HMS Warrior, our 7 semi-finalists have been busy battling with their landscapes and the elements for the last hour.
It's so windy.
I've chosen an orange ground today because I knew I was going to be working with blues and I knew it was going to be a good sort of counterbalance to that. And to some extent, because the buildings around, a lot of them are brick and there's flint on the beaches, so I wanted it to reflect in some way the grounds of the geography here.
We first met Susan Isaac in 2022 when she joined us at the Eden Project in Cornwall. This year she returned to a pod in King's Cross and took a risk by waiting until the very end of the 4-hour challenge before adding in the sky. The gamble paid off, and the judges praised her for capturing the history and atmosphere of the location.
Susan.
Yes.
That looks fantastic already.
Oh, my goodness.
Interesting, in King's Cross, your yellow ground lent the painting a mood that when you put your sky in later, the mood didn't alter. The painting became more complete. And in a funny way, with the orange ground here, there is a certain brooding mood to it now. When you put the sky in, is it again finding an equivalence to that?
I'm hoping so. I knew we were going to have blue because we're Portsmouth, so I'm thinking orange complementing the blue, but also it's a cloudier day, it's slightly more sanguine, so at the same time I want it to have some kind of bright equivalent.
So the ground was chosen knowing the view?
Yeah.
OK. Yeah, I just like the way you set up the situation before you actually start the painting.
I'm a printmaker and I specialise in wood engraving. So I'll roll the ink on with my rollers and then that will sit on the surface. Anything I've engraved won't print because it will be a void in the wood. And I'm looking into a mirror today because when you print, it prints backwards. My work's small because I work on end grain wood, so it's limited by the size of the tree.
Printmaker and podcaster Molly Lemon creates small woodblock prints with a big impact. At her heat on Bristol's harbourside, she produced a work that packed a punch, managing to capture everything the view had to offer.
So beautiful.
Oh, thank you very
It's-
much.
What made you go for this shape? I mean, that's such an unusual shape.
Yeah, so it's a round of boxwood, so this is the shape of the tree. And I thought it's so angular, all the lines, and I'm used to organic shapes, so I wanted the block to be a juxtaposition to what I was engraving.
And what does that mean for when you put it on the page? I mean, will we end up with that? Because that's also quite a historic printmaking format as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. It's really hard to register a round block because it can twist. So I'm quite stressed.
I love the sort of organic shape. I love the fact that it's wonky and it's not quite sort of perfect. That just really makes it sing.
That is some amazing ship, isn't it?
Oh, it's a pile of ship. It's all straight lines.
And they can be very useful.
They can be
in terms of structure and composition. If you can use something like the mast to sort of draw in rhythm and structure, that's a very good way to go.
You're the artist. What would you paint today?
There's a lot of stuff to work with in terms of narrative, but this, in terms of picture making, is very important. Because you know I don't like vessels, really.
You don't like vessels, but this is not a cutesy little
it isn't.
boat. This is a man of war. This is a devastatingly large Victorian killing machine.
Which, it being tidal,
Yeah.
this massive thing is going to grow in size because as the tide rises, there's going to be more and more of it. I can't imagine this thing getting any larger, actually, but it will rise. Because at the moment...
Wow. All right, we're coming.
So the colours that I use in my work are quite bright, and pinks and purples. I usually do use what is there and just exaggerate it slightly and make it feel a bit more joyful. Oh, no. So somewhere between it being a good representation and also you get the sense of the day.
Wildcard winner Rose Dufton works as a freelance print designer for fashion brands, while also working part-time at a film lab. Her bold pink hues caught the judge's eyes when she painted the Clifton Suspension Bridge from a nearby park.
Hello, Rose.
Hi, Kate.
Congratulations. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you.
You graduated from the Wildcards.
Step up.
Graduated straight into this enormous ship.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
I am feeling a bit intimidated.
When we saw you in Bristol, you worked on this pink ground. It's quite flat in its colour tones.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that choice. Is it something that you're really happy with that you always do, or is it just if the picture demands it?
I would normally work on a pink ground. I just think it adds a bit of warmth, and the way that I paint it is quite transparent, so you do get to see the tone.
Yeah, it buzzes quite a lot.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and capture the mood of the day.
And it's blue skies at the moment. I mean, it's all over the place. It's windy, it's chilly, then the sun come out and it's lovely. You've been painting in this blue sky.
Yeah.
So are you trying to manifest the day that you want?
I'm definitely doing that.
Yeah.
I love the colours here. There's some beautiful tones in the concrete, so I'm just trying to capture the depth of them. I really wanted to show the scale of where we're at, and I'm hoping with the scale of the concrete, it will give the ship more presence than if it was bigger in my painting.
Sarah Stoker runs a pottery business when she's not busy painting. She mainly works in alcohol inks, which she used to great effect in her heat at an abandoned slate quarry in North Wales.
Sarah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Well, you've got a lot of gear, haven't you, Sarah? I mean, there's
Never
about
travel light.
400 pens and bottles and brushes.
I didn't know what you were going to present me with, so I bought everything.
This concrete that takes up 2/3 of your painting won't be here soon. The tide's going to come in.
I know, I'm
So,
just debating whether to bring the water forward. I haven't made my mind up yet. That's where I've left that bit there.
I think what we should do is, as the water comes up, just keep bringing it up. So it's like a real-life, real-time record. Talk me through your foregrounding so much.
I just really like the composition of it, and I really like the texture of the concrete too.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping it gives a feeling of the place, the scale of it, with all the concrete here.
So I'm hoping to just firm everything up and make everything feel a bit more solid, because it's feeling a little bit wishy-washy at the moment.
Make a decision, woman.
In the next 2 hours, I'm going to try and get some careful drawing in and sort of solidify the composition and make everything feel a bit more solid. Just got to get that pier right.
Can't even work out where the sun is. Oh, there. It's very confusing. I thought it was over there.
I'm feeling OK. The painting itself is sort of coming together enough. In an ideal world, I would probably need more time. We'll just have to see. Yeah, it's quite a lot to do.
For the last 2 hours, our 7 semi-finalists have been busy capturing Portsmouth's famous historic dockyard.
They're coming to take our artists away.
We're halfway through. I'm starting to do, like, textural representation of the sea. The paints are drying quite quickly, actually, so that's really problematic.
At the minute, I'm just using isopropyl alcohol, and when you apply it to the surface, it moves paint out of the way, so I'm just splashing some tiny little bits on just to put some texture on the concrete.
I'm really glad at the moment that I went for the big scale, but it could all change. Calm down. There's some wonky bits of painting in it. I need to straighten those. I need to put the rigging in, but that will go in right at the end. It's a purely practical thing because it goes over the top of everything else. So the dark rigging against the sky will come last.
Rose, the acrylics you use, they're very transparent. They're almost like watercolour, aren't they?
Yeah, I like building it up in layers.
But then the material has a certain sort of limit to it. Do you ever get caught where you think, I need to do a bit more, but I'm going to kill the painting?
Yeah, I guess that's the balance, and trying to think, do I actually need to go back into it, or can I leave it as it is, and am I just being picky?
OK, and that's where you are now?
That's where I'm at.
So it's a semi-final. You've really set them quite a task today with that ship.
And they're all doing incredibly well.
Such good compositional choices. We were evil, and then they were geniuses.
A lot of them are plein air artists, so they're used to things changing. So I think they buckled up and got on with it.
Sarah, is she making concrete progress?
Oh, Sarah's just made such an intelligent choice. To give that much of the foreground over to the concrete slope is so audacious, and I think she's going to get away with it because she really does have the perspective right. You feel like you believe the ship within this contained space that she's given it.
It feels like a picture that's in 2 sections. There's the top half, which is the ship, and then this huge, dirty expanse of concrete below. And the two are really dissonant, but I think we know from the work that she did in the heat that it's when she gets all that layering on top, and there's a sort of a screed over the whole thing that I think might pull it all together.
Molly, how's she doing?
I think Molly's brilliant. I wish I could keep those blocks of wood. They are so stunning.
It's all about the shape. I mean, it's just so sophisticated because it gives it this real intensity, but also it gives you these organic qualities.
What a genius idea to use that shape. I mean, printmaking is so complex already. She's suffering a bit. She's quite angry with us, having given her so many straight lines and rigging and master.
I don't think any of them are thrilled with the challenge.
No, there was not much air punching when they saw it this morning. I just spoke to Ben. He says, I'm still battling, but he's not battling the battleship. Completely avoided it.
Ben made such a good choice, though. He found the thing that interested him, which was, like, decaying concrete pier. Fabulous. I mean, grim. He creates such good-looking paintings that I know it'll all hold together.
Is it a smart choice to not paint the ship in that you can compare the way everyone else has dealt with the ship, and then he's in his own separate category?
I won't know until the end of the day, because that is exactly the view I would have painted if I were a painter, because that's what interests me, you know, the detritus of modern-day life. I'm not interested in the minutiae of a rigging on a large ship. You know, that's not going to keep me going.
We could have it moved if you want.
I think, can you get that sorted?
Yeah, don't
before
worry.
the end of
Leave
the
it
day?
Claire, the sky. She's given us a beautiful sky. Is it beautiful or is it just me?
No, it is beautiful.
I thought when Claire started this morning, the composition was just fantastic. And as more paint and colours gone on, the contrasts of those strong lines giving us this direction sort of went, and it's become more conventional. So I think I'm waiting for that next stage.
Kieran's, I'm personally finding it harder to engage with. I don't know why. It feels a bit dark at
I
the
think
moment.
Kieran's was really good earlier on this morning. It was sort of sketched in really, really beautifully. And I think what we've got at the moment is something that's missing the rigging. And I think that when he goes in with those black lines, that's when it will all start to come together again. I think that's what we need.
Susan, working hard on her knees all day. I mean, hats off to her for just being able to hold that pose for 4 hours. But so full of drama.
It's such a fantastic bit of drawing. And now we're getting to that stage again, which we saw in King's Cross, where the sky has got to go in. And I don't know whether it's got the same, that transition we expected or didn't expect. I don't think it's got the same tension. So it's kind of interesting.
But does that mean at this moment, if you hadn't have had that experience at King's Cross, you might be saying you're not sure about it?
I think I'd be saying, wow, that's an awful lot of harsh orange, and that's going to be a difficult picture at the end of the day to look at.
Rose has given us colour. So much colour she's put in there, and a boat.
Yeah,
That's not the ship. How do you feel about that?
I'm just fascinated by how certain choices make something feel very contemporary. And with Rose, it's colour, isn't it? The whole thing feels really fresh.
I think the other thing for me as well, it's not just about the colour choice, but I think it's like the language is flat and reduced, but not stylised. You feel like you're looking at a pretty picture, but when you look up close, they're just like flat blocks of paint.
Pretty, though, is not a word you normally give a positive value to.
But I don't know if it's like, it's not sickly or twee.
Rose is completely different to anyone else. She's much more like a sort of modern-day impressionist. I am worried about it being too pretty, actually, in comparison to the others. The others have got, you know, a raw energy to them. Hers is very, very delicate.
There's a lot of artists there that I'm loving their work today. It's tense. I don't want anyone to muck it up. I don't know what's going to go first, my nerves or my hairdo.
I think I'm slightly behind, I'd say, just in my head, but I'll feel happier once the ship is in a bit more and I've got those buildings defined a bit better. There's a good bit of detail, so I'm trying to not get obsessed with the detail and just get the main structures in. Just making sure everything is there, and then I can spend the last hour just doing detail.
I plan to do like 4 layers today, and I think I've done 4 already. At the moment, my print's like quite rusty-coloured pink and grey, and I'm just going to add a blue, so I've got a gradient of blue here, some for the water and some for the sky, so I can get kind of 2 layers done at once. I'm hoping that will bring the ship out so it doesn't get lost amongst all the ink. I think I've got 3 or 4 more layers to go. I'm just going to be doing a lot of engraving then printing, and then hopefully, like, what I have in my mind will appear. I've made quite a lot of mistakes, but I'm not going to tell the judges and hope they don't notice.
Celebrating 500 years of naval history, Portsmouth Historic Dockyard is home to some of the most famous British ships ever launched, including Nelson's flagship HMS Victory and HMS Warrior. Unveiled in 1860, Warrior was the largest and most powerful warship of its day, able to outrun and outgun every other seagoing vessel.
HMS Warrior was the first iron-hulled warship. She was built in response to a French ship that had been recently launched in 1859, and it was very much the British trying to be in the lead in terms of naval supremacy. So this was quite a change in terms of ship design and a really intimidating vessel to have in the fleet.
Powered by sails the size of 13 tennis courts and a steam engine fueled by 10 boilers, Warrior's onboard facilities were equally as advanced as its propulsion system. For 20 years, the enormous ship patrolled the English Channel, with its weapons trained on the French coastline. Napoleon III called it the Black Snake, but the ship's formidable armour and firepower were never put to the test, as new ships powered entirely by steam rendered its mighty sails obsolete. It was retired from service in 1883 without ever firing a shot in anger.
Susan, tell me about the sky. Do you think you're going to do more?
I might pretty well leave it like that.
I mean, I think that's very effective, but it's weird, isn't it? Because you've effectively got two types of sky present.
It's not realistic, is it?
It's not meant to be?
No. Both of those colours are up there, but not necessarily in the right order.
Yeah, that sounds like a Morecambe and Wise sketch.
Exactly so.
Yeah.
Right, it's bloody rigging now, isn't it?
Claire, I've just come at that crucial point,
Yes.
which you must have been dreading all day long.
Yes, I'm putting the rigging in, and it's not my favourite thing.
I'm so sorry.
We need to probably bring back the sky into some of the rigging a bit and just kind of redefine some of those masts. I could do another hour. I'm going to get what I'm going to get done, and hopefully it's enough.
It feels like I'm at the place where I should stop, which is usually a good place to stop. And especially with not that long left, I think I could make some mistakes that I can't fix.
I feel quite stressed. I've got another layer to add. It's either got to turn the piece around or it's not really going to help. And I don't know which way it's going to go. It's just getting worse. It's going so badly.
Our artists are nearing the end of their 4-hour challenge. So who will have done enough to win a place in the final?
It's been quite difficult the last hour or so because the tide's come right in and all the angles have changed. I'm still worried about that bit.
Oh. So the tide's coming in. There's a lot of changes in light because of cloud and sun. I don't think any of the changes are affecting my painting much. It's just my ability to paint that's affecting the painting at the moment.
So disconcerting with the water coming up. Adds drama.
It's wellies on.
Oh, my God. Stephen in the sea.
Does anyone have a phone number for King Canute? Artists, you have 5 minutes left. 5 minutes. Please hurry up.
This is a horrible thing to have to do. I hope nobody that knows things about ships ever looks at this.
Oh, my God. I hope I've done enough.
Artists, your semi-final challenge is over. Please stop what you're doing and step away from your artworks.
Well done.
It looks really nice.
After a long day, it's finally time for the artists to relax.
I'll definitely look back and think, oh, I should have done that, or I could have added this.
For one of these artists, there's a life-changing prize on the horizon. The winner will embark on a tour of the south of France, visiting the iconic landscapes that inspired renowned artists Monet, Cézanne, and Van Gogh. They'll visit the mountains of Provence, the birthplace of Cézanne's deconstructed style, which paved the way for 20th century modernism. On Thebes, where Monet found a new way of looking at light and colour which transformed his painting. And the countryside around Arles, where Van Gogh sought solace in the natural world. Our winner's landscape will be exhibited at the prestigious Courtauld Gallery in London, alongside its famous collection of Impressionist and Post-Impressionist masterpieces. For now, our judges need to choose which 3 artists will go through to the final.
What a fine collection of paintings and a print.
I mean, 7 excellent semi-finalists.
It's a sense of self-congratulation about that.
I mean, it was a subtext. That is true.
Well, I'll say it if you won't. Well done on
Thank
picking
you.
7 terrific artists. So we have to whittle these 7 down to 3. It's not going to be easy. So, Sarah, a painting of 2 halves, really. Did you like both halves equally?
For me, it's one picture. Compositionally, she's done something very clever with the concrete leading you down to the water. I feel like she's really responding to the gravitas and the weight of this place.
I think Sarah's composition's ingenious. I love her mark making. I must say I'm quite surprised that it isn't as varied as it was in both the heat and her submission. So I missed that a bit. But I think the way she's structured it is just fantastic, and some beautiful colour passages through it.
Molly made her print. It's obviously tiny. How did you think that turned out?
I love what Molly's done. You feel like you're looking at something ancient, but when you go up close, it feels really contemporary.
It's extraordinary to take something so big and make it so small, but up until a point, I think maybe part of the reason I like it is because I kind of marvel at the technical quality of it, but I don't know if it goes that much further for me, because if we just blew that up, is it an arresting image?
But does that matter? You know, why would you blow it up? And no more than we would make one of these small.
Yeah.
The thing is the thing.
It's like those people who speak very quietly and you have to sort of lean in to hear what they're saying. Something charismatic, isn't there, about something that small?
That's a very good analogy.
Ben, the only artist to completely ignore
Yeah.
this unbelievably big ship
Yeah.
right in front of our eyes. What did you like about his work?
I think if you're an artist like Ben and you really find nothing of interest in this ship, then we really need to know that you feel interested in the scene that you gave us, that it's not just a substitute. And you believe his passion for this kind of decaying concrete pier and the struts there. I worry about the sky slightly. I just feel like maybe it's neither one thing nor the other. It looks a bit too much like the Simpsons sky for me, with these kind of like quite cute white clouds.
Claire has given us this huge sky.
It really is, for me, just a beautiful skyscape. I think she didn't overwork the rigging that I was worried that she would do, because she knew that it was going to be a key part of the composition.
I think it's quite abstract what's happening on the left. But what I do get a feeling is a feeling of romance and nostalgia.
I would almost just like her to trust herself enough to say, I don't need to put as much in. I can still make this a very kind of emotive, loaded picture.
Sir Kieran's submission and heat-winning paintings were green, green, green. He didn't have any green to work with today.
No, and actually he's reduced the palette even further.
Yeah, it's curious with Kieran. I feel like I'm looking at something that's a study, that it's very, very unfinished. And, you know, most of our artists now have really sort of managed to get under their belt 4 hours. They can finish something in 4 hours. This feels very light, expressionistic, fluid, in the true impressionist sense, you know, capturing a fleeting moment. But then there are moments of solidity that I absolutely love. That thrust that he's got in the bottom section, that green of the water with the supports under the piers, is so well observed. I mean, I'm very conflicted about this painting.
You can't accuse Susan's painting of lacking drama, can you?
It's like there's a war brewing. It's got this kind of historicism. It's certainly very dramatic. But for me, this painting lives off the relationship between this kind of cream colour behind the masting, but also in front of it. So you're not really sure where you are. Is the water behind her in front? Is the sky behind her in front? She plays around with the picture plane, so it feels very intense.
Do you think that's deliberate?
I think she's very deliberate in all of her choices.
I mean, it's crude, but it's also very, very clever.
Well, you look at Susan's and then you look at Rose. Talk about two people seeing a scene in a different way. What do you make of Rose's?
Yeah, I think Rose's sense of colour is really beautiful, and the way she uses her acrylic in such a transparent manner that it has a feel of watercolour, and the whole thing glows. I think it's a very attractive picture, but it inhabits a weird place. I don't think she knows it's by nature quite an abstract painter. She responds to the way paint goes down and colour goes down. But then she has drawn the mask very carefully and the riggings, but not enough to be completely there. So it's a strange place. So I think a young artist still in the process of working out their language.
Yeah.
I think it's very beautiful, but yeah, it's not quite complete for me.
Well, it's a beautiful sunny day. We're by the water and we're thinking, right, we're sending the artist to the south of France. He might be encountering such weather as this, and we've got to think about what kind of artist would be able to do justice to that. Not just follow the Impressionist footsteps, but actually do something really original with landscape painting.
Artists, congratulations to all of you on getting through to the semi-final. It's been an absolute privilege watching you all work today. But as you know, and according to the rules of Landscape Artist of the Year, only 3 of you can go forward to this year's final. The first artist the judges have selected to compete in the final is Ben McGregor. The second artist is Kieran Gullion. The third artist joining us at the final is Susan Isaac. Those of you who didn't make it through to the final, you should be immensely proud of yourself. Thank you for all your hard work today and at the heats. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
It's wild. It's amazing. Like, I can't believe I'm a finalist. I'm really shocked. I wasn't expecting it.
Congratulations.
Oh, thanks so much.
See you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. The other work was really strong, really amazing people, so delighted, yeah.
I'm absolutely astonished to be a finalist. I was really not expecting to hear my name called out then.
Absolutely spectacular victory again, Susan. Well done, fabulous.
It's been a massive confidence boost. I hadn't dared to think I would get this far, so it's absolutely delightful.
Wow, just words can't describe. I am, like, absolutely buzzing. Really happy to be in the top 3 because the standard this year was so unbelievably high.
What a final 3.
I think all 3 of them are very instinctive. They look at a landscape, they frame it, they put a composition together that it comes out of their bones and somehow translates itself onto the canvas.
I don't even really understand how Susan does what she does. I mean, it's amazing, the forcefulness and the fierceness and the really strong bravado, expressionistic qualities.
I think Kieran's language is interesting. It fits in what we would consider traditional, but he bends the view he takes and he bends the colours and he does some very strange, subtle things which quietly move him into a different category all of his own.
Ben really delivered today because he showed us a different kind of mark making. So he shows us within this language that he's created, he's got great range. And it was beautiful to look at, even though what he chose was really grotty.
We definitely went for bravery today, didn't we?
Yes.
And I think each of our artists today are bringing us something which is slightly off, slightly different. And you have to remember, that's what the Impressionists did.
And it's going to be a tough decision who's going to South France, because each of them will bring a strength to the task.
If you want to find out more about the competition and the work of the artists featured, visit our website, skyartsartistoftheyear.tv. Next time, it's the final and we are on hallowed ground.
I'm kind of drawn to the drum banging druids because that's kind of cool.
As Kieran, Susan and Ben take on the world's most enigmatic ancient monument, Stonehenge.
Colour will be happening soon, hopefully.
So whose sacrifice on the altar of art?
I'm feeling tons of pressure right now.
Will see them anointed high priest or priestess of our 10th anniversary competition.
The winner of Landscape Artist of the Year is...
Famous names facing the same iconic interviewer. The new Sky original series David Frost vs. debuts rare or never before seen footage. All episodes are available now on Sky Documentaries.
Hello and welcome to Stonehenge, From high priests to hippies, this megalithic marvel has been welcoming visitors for over 4,000 years. And today is the inspiration for our 3 remaining artists. Prepare for a monumental challenge. It's the grand final of Landscape Artist of the Year.
For this, our 10th anniversary competition, 2,000 artists applied.
Have I painted a bridge before? No, I haven't, but there's a first for everything.
This is possibly one of the most daunting landscapes in Britain.
Now, after 6 heats and a semi-final, amidst some of the most stunning views the country has to offer, just 3 artists remain.
Kieran Guckian, Susan Isaac, Ben McGregor. Our finalists are tantalisingly close to an extraordinary £10,000 prize commission. The winner will travel to the south of France and create a work to hang alongside those of the great Impressionists and Post-Impressionists, Monet, Van Gogh and Cézanne, in London's prestigious Courtauld Gallery. To win both today's painting and the finalists' commissions, landscapes they've completed in their own time, will need to impress our 3 judges.
You know, these artists, we really sort of cement their reputation, and it feels to me like our 10th ever winner needs to be extra special.
So the stone circle is waiting, and the final ritual is about to begin.
The winner of Landscape Artist of the Year is...
Shrouded in the early morning mist on Salisbury Plain, 3 pods are ready and waiting for our remaining artists. Irishman Kieran Guckian.
To be in the final is huge. I haven't been thinking about it too much because I didn't want to, freak myself out about, oh, you're in the final. I've watched this program for a long time. So to get here is, yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
Susan Isaac from Nottinghamshire.
This morning, arriving here, I'm feeling full of trepidation and excitement and nerves and everything else. Compared to the other heats, it really feels like the sort of ultimate moment.
And from Surrey, Ben McGregor.
If I won, it would absolutely mean the world. The whole reason I paint landscapes is because of the show, so it's a lot at stake. Wow, look at that.
Oh my God, that's cool, isn't it?
Amazing.
Look at it.
It potentially looks easy, but I don't think it is.
No,
Yeah.
to make something of it.
Yeah.
Through the blanket of morning fog, today our finalists find themselves face to face with perhaps the world's most celebrated prehistoric monument, Stonehenge. Its famous structure, the remains of a ring of enormous vertical sarsen stones topped with horizontal lintels, stands directly in front of the pods, rising from a grassy plateau which, for now at least, is largely hidden in the haze.
10 years, the final. I mean, it's the culmination of so much hard work. What can I say? We've got 3 brilliant artists. We're at the most iconic location in the country. We think we know these stones. We see them everywhere. They're reproduced everywhere. But actually, our artists today need to help us see them anew. It's the beginning of the day. The mist has descended, but during the day, it's going to rise and it's going to be glorious.
I've never been here. I've always wanted to come here. But actually, it's a very complex group of stones, objects, patterns. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting day.
I think what's difficult about the view is the stones are standing in a void almost, just the sort of plain. So it's going to be hard to figure out how to give it a sense of scale, really.
I think Stonehenge is quite close to what I would usually paint, so it's just organic forms, grass, rock, sky. But I'm feeling tons of pressure right now. Yeah, I'm nervous as hell.
While the mist continues to burn off and before their final challenge begins, the artists have been granted the rare privilege of spending some time inside the stone circle.
It feels rather awe-inspiring to be in the middle of this megalith. It feels quite special. At the moment, I'm mapping out the sarsen stones in front of me to get a feeling of their shape, which is quite particular to each one.
So I'm just doing a quick sort of oil sketch. I'm preferring up close, I think, to the zoomed out, only because I just think the zoomed out view is so recognizable. I've never been here before, it's the first time, so it's amazing to be like here in this context.
There's a really interesting feeling in here. Like, there is definitely an atmosphere in here. Like, there's forests of lichen grown on them. You can feel it's ancient. To be painting Stonehenge and to get to come inside is pretty special, yeah, it's cool.
Size, it's a square.
Artists, I hope you're feeling prepared for the task ahead. You have around 90 great big stones to paint and only 4 hours in which to do it. Your time starts now.
As the first of Stonehenge's visitors begin to trickle in, and some more familiar faces also take a closer look at the stones, our first finalist is fully focused on the gravity of the challenge ahead.
What I'm hoping to put into this composition is a sense of the weight of the stones, the sort of weightiness of history. But I've never painted anything quite so ancient as this, or quite so iconic, so that's going to be an interesting challenge today.
As a former archaeological illustrator, Susan Isaac is drawn to historical scenes and first took part in the competition in 2022. Her submission depicted a passageway at Cambridge University, while in her heat at London's St Pancras Basin, she turned her attention to the old Victorian gas holders.
It's got a strange sort of dark historical heft to it, and I think it comes from the power of the black line and the drawing.
In the semi-final at Portsmouth's historic dockyard, Susan's dramatic impasto style and evocative palette saw her sail into the final.
I mean, it's crude, but it's also very, very clever. And it's like the thing is vibrating with power and energy.
Susan, we're used to seeing drama, energy, already getting that. We've got this amazing burnt orange beginning. Talk to me about how you've sort of come up with this composition.
I'm very spotty, so I've done quite a bit of research into the background of the stones and the site. So I'm conscious of the weightiness, the history, the prehistory, the fact that the sense of the stones is so sort of solid and timeless. So I've zoomed in a bit to the right-hand side to give it a sense of the scale of the stones.
Yeah, so you want to kind of get to grips with that prehistoric quality.
Yes. So other things will move, the clouds will move, the grass, the shapes will change with the light, but the solidness of the stones is the important bit.
So the plan is I'm just focusing on one area where the landscape behind is coming through. My eye is really drawn to that. And I think I can get that down now in the next, half an hour, and then should be feeling better after that.
Dubliner Kieran Guckian embarked on a career as a full-time artist just a year ago. He entered the competition with a portrayal of a ravine in County Wicklow, and faced with a comparable landscape at Avon Gorge, impressed the judges with his narrative and subdued tones.
I'm lost in the story that sits around it. The observation of light and colour, I think, is really impressive.
Faced with a very different proposition in Portsmouth, Kieran's approach was just as successful, earning him a place in today's final.
He's really conjured this beautiful sky behind it that really feels like it's moving. And there's a kind of fluidity to the clouds that's so believable.
Kieran, I was really excited when I knew we were coming here, you know, for our 10th anniversary. But then the more I thought about it, the more I thought it's actually really hard for an artist because it's so represented, you know, from table mats to tea trays. How do you stop it from becoming a cliche?
I guess just by focusing in on a certain area that I'm interested in and just zooming in a little bit on it, just so I'm not doing the whole thing. I really, really like the way the landscape is in the background. I love that. It's like, it's in the distance, but it's really punching through that hole. It's, I really want to get some of the landscape in, to be honest, just to show where it's sitting.
The little views through.
Yeah.
I've decided to do a view inside the stones rather than sort of set back looking at them. For me, it's just about trying to create as interesting an image as possible.
A semi-finalist in 2020, Ben McGregor has spent the last few years developing the impressionistic style displayed in his submission of A Wiltshire Country Lane. At Hampton Court Palace, his imaginative, semi-abstract painting saw him through as Heat winner.
It feels weird and organic and psychedelic, but it's very well thought through and structured.
In Portsmouth, although Ben avoided the main view of HMS Warrior, his characteristic mark-making again enchanted the judges.
You believe his passion for this pier and the struts there, where he gets into that decaying concrete. I could look at that all day.
Ben, I'm looking at the stones and I'm looking at your composition and I realise you've made this up.
Well, I haven't quite. It was from our trip round this morning.
Ah, OK.
So for me, I really wanted to do something that was much more sort of inside.
Yes, it feels
the
like...
stones themselves, where you could really feel kind of the magnificence of them, really.
I mean, they are wonderful, but their size is difficult to comprehend unless you go
inside. Exactly.
Yes, it suddenly becomes overwhelming and church-like and sacred. It's kind of interesting that that's what you're looking for, this sort of enclosedness of it all. And now, like the moth and the lichen, you're sort of working your way across the surface.
Yeah.
Very slowly.
Slowly, sort of rock by rock.
The artists this morning started in shock and awe that they're at Stonehenge and they were wandering through these ancient objects. I mean, it's just extraordinary seeing their faces.
But I think they're all feeling quite, a bit like me, you know, quite zen.
Yeah.
And I just think we're so lucky today.
I know.
We've got three such distinct styles.
One thing that's interesting, though, that does unite them is no one has given us the zoomed-out expanse of Stonehenge, the touristic silhouette in the landscape.
And I think that's partly because they quickly understood that to do that whole view is the chocolate box. That's the jigsaw puzzle. You know, you don't need to do that.
What I really hope is that, like, Susan goes, like, full solstice mania, like something really dramatic and crazy.
Totally expecting
Ben's going to go, like, spiritual and folkloric, and then Kieran's going to be, like, filmic and weird and uncanny, and, like, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. I think this is just one of the most thrilling locations we've ever been to. I'm really over the moon.
It's 10 years.
Yeah.
Got to celebrate. It's got to be the most important British landscape, and I think we've given it.
But as the artists reach the end of their first hour, it's not ley lines, but sight lines that are their main concern.
It's a bit tricky because the people have arrived, so some of my view is actually blocked a little bit, so I'm kind of waiting for gaps and then getting them in, and then, hopefully it'll be all right.
I'm fairly happy with the composition. I think it's got a sense of something of the history and the weightiness of the stones. Colour will be happening soon, hopefully. Yes.
I'm going up close to the stones and the sort of the textural elements of them. I just can't get rid of the nerves, but I'm just going to sort of do my best to make this the best picture I possibly can.
In Wiltshire, our three finalists have been charged with depicting Stonehenge. one of the world's most recognisable and enigmatic ancient monuments. And as characters of all kinds arrive on this hallowed ground, it's the megaliths that continue to captivate.
Susan, they feel like individuals, don't
Yeah,
they? I mean,
very
that's the
much.
thing. I think it's
Yeah.
also because they're quite separate, but they're part of a whole. It's almost like a
Yes.
cluster of
Like a community.
individual people, that come
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
But I can see you've done that thing of elevating it. You have pushed it all up to the top, haven't you?
Yeah, for me, because the stones are the important thing rather than the sky, I wanted them to have precedence, so
Yeah.
the sky
Yeah.
will surround them in a gentle way and a complimentary way, hopefully.
A lot of people come here and say it's smaller than they expected, but there's something pretty magical about it.
Well, we have had the advantage of being allowed into the magic circle, and suddenly its sort of prehistoric magnificence is really palpable, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it really is a special
It
place.
feels like a temple.
Yes. And then suddenly we're on the outside and there's thousands of tourists.
Yeah.
So to find a way into it that feels profound and captures that sense of prehistory and spirituality, and yeah, it's a big one. Also, the site, I mean, it's very difficult because it is situated in absolute emptiness. So you then just have these very flat stones. The sun isn't out. You know, I'm always talking about making paintings. You use contrast, you use color, you use light and dark, and none of this is happening today. So the stuff you're working with is the stones, their story and their texture. So it's a very different way of dealing with landscape.
It's a danger, something like this, that, you know, this is a special place and it has a spooky-dooky quality to it that I want to show you that's, you know... So is that a trap that's potentially there, or are they too good for that?
They're too good for that.
Yeah. I'm not. I'd have a massive druid, long flowing hair, and sun.
Ben, this has got a lovely, strange quality to it. Maybe it's to do with your approach, which is stone by stone.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
It's a technique that I've developed where I can push the paint in so I can get these sort of really interesting brush marks that kind of look quite rocky.
And obviously, you don't want to keep painting over that because it would kind of ruin the lovely mark making.
Yeah, 100%. It's like one pass and that's it almost. And otherwise, it's
tricky. So, is there anything you've learnt from being with us? Things about time, nerves, stress?
Personally, that's sort of the whole reason I do landscapes is because of the show. Before watching it, I hadn't ever sort of even sort of thought about doing it. The programme itself has been so much a part of how I paint and how I've sort of tried to develop myself.
Well, you're welcome. We take full credit.
Kieran, you're doing your weird stuff again. I mean...
Am I?
Yeah, I just love the fact that you found a way of finding an atypical view. I think that's always remarkable about your work. And your tonal range is always very low. Here, tonal range is really narrow, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that what you like, maybe?
I do like that, yeah. Because it's kind of a bit of a challenge not to go, you know, too high or low against each other.
Also, your work always has an underlying menace or darkness or narrative. And I mean, this place is, of course, full of narrative.
Yeah.
Is it something you're doing consciously?
I think I'm just responding. There's something about this place, like, it's clearly ancient.
Yes.
You know, I hope it'll just kind of naturally come through anyway.
Predating even the pyramids, Stonehenge is one of the world's most important archaeological sites. It's constructed mainly from two types of stones. The smaller inner rocks are called bluestones, and the larger outer slabs, sarsen stones.
The sarsen stones came from the Marlborough Downs, about 20 miles away. And the bluestones, they came from the Preseli Hills in Pembrokeshire in Wales, which is 180 miles away. For reasons that we don't completely understand, the people who moved to Stonehenge felt the power of the stones was so important that they dragged them over land all that distance.
Though archaeologists have learned much about their origins, the stone's exact purpose remains less clear.
We know it started off as a cremation site, a burial site, and it's a solar and lunar temple. We know that there was particular activities around winter when there was large sacrifice of animals and big feasting activities. So it looks like the winter solstice was particularly important.
As new discoveries are made, it was revealed recently the altar stone came from northeast Scotland. Our understanding of Stonehenge as an enduring site of spiritual and seasonal celebration continues to evolve.
It's absolutely unique in terms of world monuments and world heritage. There's nowhere else that looks like it. It's instantly recognizable. You have to come here, really, to experience it.
As the artists reach the end of their second hour, the crowds are now out in force.
So many people. Because the stones are like the centerpiece of the whole painting, they need to be kind of absolutely right first off. So yeah, just got to keep going.
The stones are a puzzle. I'm trying to work out a way of differentiating them. That's quite tricky at the moment because it's not at all defined. So that's what I'm most worried about, I guess.
I think the biggest challenge is the light. I'm trying to look back at the first drawing I did and just make sure I keep like what was quite dark, and not lose that feeling that I had this morning.
Amid thousands of visitors, 3 artists, Kieran, Susan and Ben, are depicting the ancient megalithic site of Stonehenge. And halfway through the competition, cracks are beginning to show.
The textures of the rocks are working really well, but I find doing a painting under these kind of circumstances is really draining, so keeping my head in the game is probably my biggest challenge.
I have been building out a certain amount of colour and hopefully depth. I think it's working, but I hope that I'll still be happy at the end.
Look at this.
I know.
Crazy.
Yeah.
5,000 years.
Yeah.
Roughly. And can you tell whether you're on good form or not with the brush?
Kind of. Like, some days, yeah. Some days you'll just have a terrible day.
Oh, please don't
Today
have a
won't be
terrible
a terrible
day.
day. But
Please.
it's just, I think if I'm enjoying what I'm painting, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good attitude. Well, these stones have seen some things over the years, but they've never seen a final of Landscape Artist of the Year.
No. They've been hugely inspirational, I think. Having said that, I think all 3 artists are going through a bit of a dodgy patch.
Oh, really?
Oh, you don't know?
Well, I think they've all found their own little ways through, and they're all 3 very, very different. So I think they're doing fine.
I know what you mean, but I think Ty's right. I don't think any of them are doing the wrong thing, but it's just we're at that stage of the day where the paintings are all shifting slightly.
So Susan's painting is throbbing with her usual intensity. How's she getting on?
Yeah, I mean, Susan started with an orange that we've seen before, and I thought her compositional choices in the beginning were very good, and I liked the way the black was going on. It's got this immediacy. I can feel the weight and the history of those stones. But she's starting to respond what's in front of her rather than what she felt when she went into the stones this morning and gone away from that initial sort of roughness. And so I miss that.
I mean, I will say, where's these extraordinary, powerful skies? So instead of a sky, she's given us this kind of foreground, and I'm confused. I'm like, how are you going to make this the drama?
Ben has given us stones hovering in isolation at the moment.
I keep on thinking about an Isaac Asimov book cover from the 1970s, where you've got these strange monolithic forms, as if you're in space and they're all going to go whoosh.
Problem, I think, is because he hasn't put the grass in. So once that comes in, I think we'll be back down to earth again.
Right.
But it's amazing watching the way his paint moves on that smooth surface. And that compositional device is he wanted the viewer to be surrounded by the stones and drawn in. But at the moment, it does look strangely graphic.
Kieran's is the only one that you look at and might need to be told that it's Stonehenge.
Isn't he brilliant? He always finds the corner that makes it unreadable.
The weird little good bit. Like, his paint application isn't in and of itself interesting, like Susan's and like Ben's, but it's the way that he conjures a picture that it makes it feel arresting.
I also think that he's more interested in what he sees through the gaps and that dark presence of that large stone. I think that's going to become more and more textured as time goes by. I think when he's done that, you'll be able to read it more. The balance is off at the moment.
So, yeah, you won't be judging solely on the work they produced today. We've got the semi-final, we've got the heats, we've got the submission. And, of course, they've all been asked in the last couple of weeks to go away and paint a commission.
The commissions can change everything, because ultimately what we're always doing is sort of taking all these puzzle pieces together and trying to get a real sense of who the artist was last time we saw them, who they were today, and who they're going to be in the future. And that's how you find the winner. And, yeah, I mean, it's all to play for.
For their commissions, each of our finalists was tasked with producing a landscape close to their home to showcase what they can achieve outside the rigours of a 4-hour competition. Ben, who lives in Surrey, has decided on a lake in Walton-upon-Thames.
It's such a tranquil place for me where I like to sort of go canoeing and have a stroll around the lake. So, yeah, it's a big part of my everyday. I'm drawn to some really nice trees and also this island, which I think is going to be a key feature in the painting.
Meanwhile, Susan has chosen a spot on her family's farm in Nottinghamshire.
I've lived here with my husband for 30-odd years and brought up our 3 daughters. It's very important to us both. What draws me to this view is the dramatic pylon combined with the perspective lines of the wires that lead eventually to the Staythorpe Power Station beyond it.
In Dublin, Kieran found inspiration right on his doorstep.
What I've decided to paint for my commission is the trees in the garden. So one is the tree down there, which our children always climbed when they were young. And the other trees are these fig trees, which my father-in-law gave us as little cuttings. So those trees are, you know, a bit of him that's still here. What I'm really drawn to is the fig leaf shape, but I'm also drawn to the branches in that dark area. They're going to be a bit subtle and a little bit of mystery, which I always like.
Compositionally, this sketch is helping me kind of get an idea of what I want to do and perhaps the shape of the canvas. I want some kind of foreground foliage, maybe a tree, try and create a lot of depth in the picture.
What I'm learning from the sketch I'm doing at the moment is how much to be illustrative about the pylon I'm painting and how much to let abstraction take its course.
So far, I've just been doing a couple of quick sketches to see if this view I'm thinking of doing will work. I was thinking of doing a diptych because it feels like there's 2 parts.
What I'm pleased about today is the cloudscape that I'm getting. Whether I'm going to be able to contrast that with the pylon, I might try to do that. Yeah, very, very exciting.
What I'm aiming to achieve is just to capture the vitality of that tree. It's a beautiful tree, beautiful leaves, full of life.
I'm hoping it's got a sort of a surreal, abstract vibe to it, and just that it's in keeping with my style, basically. I'm ready to go.
The final paintings will be revealed to the judges at the end of today's challenge.
looking at close-up binoculars.
Night at the opera.
What are you checking out?
So I'm looking at the stones to try and find the textures in them.
Right.
And I'm now scratching in certain marks that hopefully indicate something about the rock face of the stones.
And birds. Look at them now. Look at them all coming in.
That's terrific, isn't it?
It's like they're having a sort of annual general meeting.
Yes, yes.
Kieran, do you have a sense of what this picture is? Are you still slightly finding it?
I'm still finding it a bit. I guess I'm just going to keep going with the rocks, and then I think I'll have to do some work on lighting.
It's quite a dark picture. I mean, you tend to work dark to light anyway, don't you?
I do, yeah. This morning it was really dark. It was more silhouetted. So I'm hoping to bring that up in time.
And would you prefer it to stay cloudy like this?
I wanted to stay like this now, yeah.
OK, I'll organise it.
What brings you here today?
Well, Ben's my son, and we've come to support him, really.
How's he getting on?
He's very well, I think.
Sue paints as well.
Do you?
An illustrator.
Right. So have you been giving any advice during the course of the day?
No, not really.
No, you haven't got a megaphone under there. You're just going to shout out. The rock on the right.
I did ask him to look at the lichen on the stone.
Yeah, the lichen is stunning, isn't it?
It
kind
is.
of the variety and the colours.
What would you liken it to?
Absolutely.
I'll do the jokes, thanks very much. I do the gags around here.
That's really good.
But the contest entering its 4th hour is no laughing matter.
I've left the sky till last, and I don't know if that's the right thing to have done. My biggest worry now is getting the sky in there and it looking good.
Got to finish these rocks in the front. The foreground isn't really done. It's hard to believe we're in the final hour. I don't know where that's gone, but it's gone, so to deal with it.
Put the sky in now, and it's sort of gone as planned. The danger is you just keep working and you don't give yourself that break to see it afresh. It'd be nice to sleep on it, but we can't do that.
At Stonehenge, 3 artists, Kieran, Susan and Ben, are into the closing stages of their final challenge. But which of them will be anointed the high priest or priestess of landscape painting?
15 minutes left, Kieran.
15 minutes left?
Yeah.
OK.
Do you want to spend the next 15 minutes chatting with me?
Sure, yeah. I do need to get this done.
Right.
And then stand back.
I'll let you get on then. There's very little
Cool.
time left.
All right, thanks a million.
Ben, the stones have landed.
Yeah, they're where they're supposed to be.
And you've bleached out the background, so we don't see any trees on the hill or anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably put clouds in, but there's no orangutan time now.
OK. I like it with that. I think especially works with regards to that light sort of coming through.
You've captured it. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
There's a beautiful sense about it, which is Stonehenge is all about.
It's got a very primal feeling about it, hasn't it? If they'd said to me, where would you like to paint? I'd have said, can we do that?
Wow.
Artists, the henge is nigh. You have 5 minutes left. 5 minutes.
Just adding bits of texture and stuff like that. I'm sort of happy with how it's looking. Hopefully the judges will like it too.
My biggest worry is that I will turn around and come back and think it's appalling. So, yeah, perhaps I won't look at it fresh from now on. It'll be what it'll be.
I've just got to tidy up the edges. Basically, just try not to overwork it is the main thing at this stage.
Artists, for the last time, your time is up and your challenge is over. Please stop what you're doing and step away from your artworks.
It's been a really really interesting and lovely day. I've done the best I could have done, so, you know, that's all I can ask for.
Tired, excited. You kind of get this, like, whoa, when you're done. But I really enjoyed it. It was a brilliant place to paint, amazing place to paint.
This whole experience has been magical. I'm sure nerves will start to kick in really badly once we're standing in front of the paintings.
Today's winner won't just be bestowed with the title Landscape Artist of the Year, they'll also receive a £10,000 commission for London's Courtauld Gallery and travel to the south of France, a region that inspired some of the greats of late 19th century painting.
I think in the case of the Impressionist and Post-Impressionist artists who went down to the south of France, it really stretched the way that they used the brush, the way that they used colour, and that was what really underpinned the fact that they transformed approaches to landscape painting during that period. We're hoping that the artist that takes on this commission will be somebody that is really deeply engaged with the landscape, that wants to do something fresh and original, because it's exactly those qualities that really run through the work of Monet and Van Gogh and Cézanne, and the reason that their work is so enduring.
I did really enjoy it, I did.
While our artists ready themselves for what's to come, our judges now have the opportunity to see their 3 commission paintings for the first time.
Wow. Oh,
wow.
That is extraordinary.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. When you look at Susan's, I love the way the rows of the tussocks in the grass are sort of leading you in so beautifully. There's intensity, but there's also always movement in her work.
And the way she uses paint to tell different stories, you can feel the electricity coming off that pylon, with the light around it. But we haven't seen her create this much space and clarity in space.
I think my commission piece conveyed what I wanted it to. Have we done enough to win? I have no idea. I will wait and see.
We talked before about Ben making work that looks like a weaving or a tapestry. I mean, and the texture in this is just sublime, and the way that he pushes and pulls, like he disrupts his own rules, doesn't he? The birch does that, these lily pads do that in the foreground.
And those trees are extraordinary. I mean, they just are so alive. The limbs work, the bunches of leaves work. And I've never seen trees rendered like this, so it's a completely new language.
So with the commission, I wanted there to be sort of a lot of space to look through and a lot of depth and texture, which was quite challenging, actually, but I was sort of happy with the result in the end.
And Kieran, I think, because we know he can do the figurative really well, but he's just gone bigger and bolder and richer.
Yeah.
And the variation of greens across that foliage, it's so effective.
But also, and it's so narrative-driven that you feel like someone's just sort of had a cigarette and stormed out of the scene. There's been a fight or something, or it feels loaded with energy to me.
And to do it as a diptych, I mean, that's clever as well, isn't it?
I like when you can do a painting that, you know, has some sort of mystery in it, or something that makes you think, you know, what's around the corner. I like the way the tree turned out. Yeah, I wanted it kind of moody.
Now, in the shadow of Stonehenge, it's time for the final act of our 10th anniversary competition.
So today's pictures placed beside the commissions. The first thing I noticed when we put them all together is how they're all keen to show us that they can work on a bigger scale.
Yeah. It's so satisfying, isn't it? We really get a sense of 3 distinct artists who all know who they are. They've found a language, but within that language, there's lots of different ways of exploiting their talents.
Yeah, and all of them, they've all done something very special with today.
Susan applies a lot of paint. Do you think that would become predictable after a while?
They're 2 very different paintings. Yes, the way the paint goes on the palette, to a certain extent, a lot of use of black, are very similar, but that sort of distant light
is very different to the stones today, which are sort of obdurate. They are old, they are ancient. So it's a very different feel she gets from this very narrow language.
I think Susan has found her style. And actually, I don't think she should be marked down because it's so particular. You know, we can recognise a Van Gogh. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
Ben seems to be interested in surfaces, grass, water.
Yeah.
Seems to really enjoy getting involved with that.
You know, it's very easy with an artist like Ben that he descends into an obsession with the patterns, but the pattern is very, very secondary here. It doesn't overwhelm, and that's a really hard balance. But the wonderful thing about the painting today is that it's truly ancient. You know, you can feel the texture of those stones, even though it looks very, very modern.
Is today's painting
So I would,
too illustrative?
I feel like today's painting has more of a graphic quality, but I actually admire him for doing that because he's showing us that he's got a different reference point. There's nothing graphic in the commission. I mean, it's all so loose, whereas this has got these, like, sharp lines, which give it a real bang. I mean, you stop in your tracks and you look at this painting.
So, Kieran, does the thought of sending someone who uses such limited palette to the south of France, does that come into your minds?
It does in a way, but I don't think it's that we're looking for an artist to be so literal as to be an impressionist of the south of France. And this colour palette that he uses creates these sort of quite intense scenes. I think he's got an extraordinary talent. Does it scream south of France? No, but that kind of makes me want to send him even more, because I'm like, I want to see it through his eyes.
Kieran uses the language that is traditional. He paints green leaves and they're drawn in the right way, but then he does something with it, and it is the narrative he finds it. It is the weird framing. It's, you know, it's a painting of Stonehenge, but nobody recognises it as Stonehenge. So he's doing different things, and it makes the whole endeavour feel very contemporary.
Tough, tough, tough. I mean, how exciting to have three such brilliant artists, but also, what a nightmare if you were one of the judges, which apparently we are.
Susan, Ben, Kieran, thank you for all your hard work this summer. It's been an absolute joy watching you all progress through the competition. You are all wonderfully talented artists, but the judges have made their final decision. The winner of Landscape Artist of the Year is... Ben McGregor.
I don't know what did just happen. I just can't believe it. I'm in absolute shock. To win the whole show, bearing in mind how much it sort of means to me and how much it's sort of meant to my journey as an artist, I just couldn't think of anything bigger than this.
You know, I thought Ben's work looked really interesting. I did glance over it during the day, and I did think, well, that looks good. So, yeah, I think they have made a good choice.
This competition has been affirming for me. I kind of went full-time on this a year ago. To make it to the final of Landscape Artist of the Year, couldn't ask for a better kind of anniversary of doing this full-time, you know?
What a great day, but what a terribly difficult decision.
So difficult. I think the calibre of artists in this competition now and this sort of 10-year anniversary, I mean, yeah, it was really, really challenging. And I think they've each got a distinct language. I would say that I think Ben has a slightly broader range with his language. I mean, he's a dream artist to send to the south of France.
And what's nice, it's about light, but it's about texture. I don't see artists deal with landscape in a textural way before. I think that's really new. So I think I'm very excited about seeing what he's going to do.
And I sort of feel like a lot of it is to do with the show, because, you know, he came to landscape paintings through the show. And I'm really excited at the idea of seeing one of his works hanging in the Courtauld Gallery. Because I think it's really going to stop you in your tracks, you know, because it's going to be in amongst those Impressionist paintings on the top floor. I'm going to feel really proud.
Yeah, me too.
I'm pretty obsessed with Impressionism. You know, I've spent hours just staring at Van Goghs and Cézannes, and so for me, having a piece hanging in the Courtauld Gallery is about as prestigious as you could possibly get. I've always really, really tried to be, you know, the best possible painter I could be. There's been a lot of hard work and a lot of sort of self-doubt, so to have all that kind of validated is priceless.
If you've been inspired to take part in the next series or would like to find out more about any of the artists, visit our website, skyartsartistoftheyear.tv. Next time, Ben travels to the south of France.
The mountain has just appeared on the landscape. I mean, that is pretty incredible, isn't it?
To follow in the brushstrokes of some of the greats of art history.
Monet said that the sky is so blue, look at the sky, that you can dive in it.
Before his painting's grand unveiling at the Courtauld Gallery in London.
Should we put you out of your misery?
Go for it.
Here we go.
Hello and welcome to Somerset House in London, home of the Courtauld Gallery and its world-famous art collection, where tonight a gathering of distinguished guests, curators and our very own judges are arriving for a very special event. It's the grand unveiling of a new landscape, created for this prestigious institution by Sky Arts Landscape Artist of the Year, Ben McGregor. For our 10th anniversary series, 48 artists were chosen to paint some of Britain's most beautiful landscapes. All of them competing for the chance to win an exceptional prize, a £10,000 commission for the Courtauld Gallery in London.
The winner of Landscape Artist of the Year is Ben McGregor.
I just can't believe it. I'm in absolute shock.
Ben's commission will take him to the south of France.
The mountain has just appeared on the landscape. I mean, that is pretty incredible, isn't it?
To experience the breathtaking landscapes that have inspired so many great artists.
We're right in the heart of an olive grove, which is sort of classic Van Gogh territory.
And to create a new landscape to be unveiled in front of an audience of invited guests.
Here we go.
It's been 3 weeks since the final of Sky Arts Landscape Artist of the Year, and Ben McGregor has returned home to Surrey.
Winning was, I mean, I was just in like a lot of disbelief. It's like this insane mixture of emotions, like relief and, you know, just euphoria. It's pretty indescribable, to be honest. I have moments when I'm on my own painting and the thought of winning comes sort of back into my psyche, and it's a really nice feeling.
Since the end of the competition, Ben's got back to business as usual.
This is my business. The workshop makes luxury bespoke furniture. I've always been a free spirit, I guess, and a bit nomadic and a bit sort of experimental. I've never sort of found myself like anchored into one thing. So I professionally had like a really, really varied career. How does this differ from this previous? Being a full-time artist would be absolutely the ultimate career for me. So do it with the rebate there. Art was always my thing as a kid. Then after that was years and years and years of just not even picking up a pencil. I was in my mid-30s, was sort of suffering from depression, and I was just left in a bit of an existential crisis, really. Out of that was born this kind of desire to do something that could potentially be quite healing. It still is my absolute solace in life, really.
Ben gained a place in this year's competition with a lyrical early evening view of a country lane in Wiltshire. For his heat at Hampton Court Palace, the topiary and ornamental features allowed Ben to create a surreal, playful landscape.
It was a masterclass in being able to say, this is what interests me, and I'll make it interesting to you too.
At the semi-final, he chose to paint an unassuming corner of Portsmouth Historic Dockyard.
It's a beautiful painting and a very well thought through composition which shows us a corner of a working port.
At the final, Ben wowed the judges with his zoomed-in view of Stonehenge.
The wonderful thing about the painting is that it's truly ancient. You know, you can feel the texture of those stones, even though it looks very, very modern.
And a commission painting of the lakes near his home.
The winner of Landscape Artist of the Year is Ben McGregor.
I love painting landscapes. I was inspired to paint landscapes by the show. I just thought that I really, you know, I want to try that. I can see myself doing landscapes as a core sort of subject matter for, you know, the rest of days.
Ben's prize for winning Landscape Artist of the Year is a commission to paint a landscape of the south of France for the Courtauld Gallery in London.
I feel really excited to be here, but seeing the kind of grandeur of the place, it makes it all feel very, very real. Can't wait to find out more about what I'm going to be doing.
The Courtauld Institute and Gallery was established in 1932 by industrialist and art collector Samuel Courtauld, who wanted to open up his unrivaled collection of Impressionist art to the public. Ben's come to discuss his commission with Courtauld curator Barnaby Wright.
Ben, welcome to the Courtauld Gallery.
Thank you so much for having me here.
What we have at the sort of heart of the collection, the Impressionist and Post-Impressionist collection, are three really extraordinary landscapes, all made in the south of France. And they are a landscape by Van Gogh of the region around Arles, a landscape by Cézanne of his hometown of Aix-en-Provence, and a landscape or seascape by Monet of Antibes. What we would like you to do is to go to those different sites where those three artists painted and were so inspired, and to produce your own contemporary response to those same landscapes.
Wow. Barney, you've just given me goosebumps. I'd sort of love to know a bit more about these three paintings. I don't know sort of very much about sort of the background behind them.
Cézanne had been in Paris in the 1870s. He went back to Aix-en-Provence. At that time, he was trying to combine a desire to get the immediacy of what a landscape felt like in front of him with something that was monumental. Monet was very much trying to find some really exciting effects of light. For Van Gogh down in Arles, he travelled down there to really find a landscape that would be, I think, spiritually very deeply rewarding to him. What we're hoping is that the spirit of those artists and the spirit with which they approached the landscape in different ways will be inspiring to you to produce a contemporary landscape painting that comes from your own personal experience.
stunning. I'm almost trying to imagine being there at the time it was painted, like standing just behind VG's shoulder. I just don't think you can stand in front of a Van Gogh without feeling like you're in the presence of genius. I really love the colour and the subtlety of the land in the background and the sky. It's really, really beautiful. Absolutely love Monet. This is one of my favourites. I could stand and look at it for ages and ages. I just love the colour palette, the brush strokes, just the movement in kind of a static scene. The challenge is an absolutely wonderful one, and I hope I can do you proud, Barnaby.
Would you like to come and see where we're thinking of hanging it?
I can't wait. I'd love to.
Let's go. Here, where these two Renoirs are.
No way. Are you serious?
You'd be able to have your work here, the Cézanne to one side, the Monet on the other side of this wall, and the Van Gogh beyond.
I'm absolutely lost for words, Barney. I can't believe it. It's a dream come true and such an honour. I will certainly put my heart and soul into this picture and hopefully make you proud. When Barnaby showed me the position that my painting would be hung, it was honestly one of the best moments I've ever had. It just felt amazing, and, you know, my mind was officially blown at that moment.
One month after winning Landscape Artist of the Year, Ben McGregor has arrived in the south of France.
It's almost a bit of paradise, I would say, down here. Wow, look at the mountains over there with the clouds. That's awesome.
Artists first travelled to this region in the second half of the 19th century, drawn by the shimmering light and strong shadows. Here they discovered a tranquil idyll, which gave them the freedom to break the rules and explore new ideas. Ben has been asked by the Courtauld to visit the three locations that inspired Claude Monet, Paul Cézanne and Vincent van Gogh.
I'd quite like to see a single scene which really speaks to me and just makes me feel like I want to paint it, and something I know that I can turn into a cool-looking painting.
His first stop is the Côte d'Azur town of Antibes, where he's meeting up with local art historian Elodie Maire.
The south of France obviously has an incredible transformative effect on many artists. I'm wondering what you think is so powerful about the landscape down here.
I would say really it's the contrasts and the light. I mean, the open light. And I mean, you have the vegetation, which is very exotic. It's these old-fashioned medieval little villages inspire the painters. The open sea is there, and you have the mountain in the back. So clearly, to me, you have everything together. I mean, and of course, this is the point of view as a person coming from, I grew up here. So this is my feeling.
Impressionist Claude Monet travelled to the Côte d'Azur for the first time in 1883. Already a well-known modern artist in Paris, he came looking for a new challenge. Captivated by the dazzling light and rich colours, he returned 5 years later and stayed here in Antibes, where he painted the Courtauld's famous view across the bay.
What impact did being in the south of France have on Monet?
So Monet actually lived a long time of his life in Normandy, in Le Havre, and he's been also learning a lot of this Impressionism in Paris. All his life he studied light and he studied also the water reflection. So coming to the South really helped him to develop his art, his work.
Would you say that coming here to the south of France was quite a significant turning point in Monet's career?
Yes, so really here the light started to be really much more bright. I mean, this is the brightness I think he was searching him. I mean, he said that the sky is so blue, look at the sky, that you can dive in it. That his words to his wife.
That's very
to his second
poetic,
wife.
isn't it? Yeah.
And he started to paint with another type of palette, which is more pink. So like pink and blue and green little touches. I think that's really the turning point, I think, is really the south of France.
Inspired by Monet's approach to colour and light, Ben has come to the exact spot where he painted the Courtaulds' view of Antibes to make his first preparatory study.
It's an epic, big landscape. The sky's big, the clouds big, the expanse of water's big. You've got mountains in the background, you've got rocks, you've got trees. It's just, there's everything I wanted in terms of like elements to tackle in a painting. So I'm starting off penning in a composition which involves this cluster of rocks here in the foreground, this lovely pine tree which sort of sweeps over the top of my view here, and the sea as the main sort of focal point, and then kind of obviously a little bit of the background, the mountains, but kind of pushed way back. I just think it works really nicely compositionally. I don't want to be too sort of literal with this scene. I'm going to make it slightly more abstract and slightly more surreal, hopefully. Well, everything's so bright and very blue. There's a lot of blue here. And also pink, actually, you know, in terms of the rock. There's so much shadow, there's so much texture, and so much depth of colour, and very subtle tonal changes, which are quite hard to capture sometimes, but, you know, Monet does that brilliantly well. The sun's setting, which means I need to work really quickly to capture everything I want to on the canvas before we lose the light entirely, which is always quite challenging. Just trying to get sort of textures in at the moment. Bark, rock, sort of short, stabby brush strokes. I'm going to just concentrate on getting the sea, the sky, and the background, using kind of aquamarine-y type blues, so trying to get them as close to the sea as possible. I just wanted to try and get this sort of golden colour where the light is sort of hitting the face of these rocks in the sea.
Leaving the Côte d'Azur behind, Ben's travelling inland to the rugged countryside around Aix-en-Provence, birthplace of one of Monet's contemporaries, Paul Cézanne. The area is dominated by the imposing limestone ridge of Montagne Sainte-Victoire.
Just got to a clearing in the trees, and the mountain has just appeared on the landscape, and witnessing it in this context and in this kind of light is pretty incredible.
Cézanne's fascination with Montagne Sainte-Victoire resulted in over 30 paintings created over the course of his lifetime. The Courtaulds landscape dates from 1887 and saw Cézanne capture the texture and geometry of the rock face in his own form of post-impressionism, using short brushstrokes and blocks of colour.
So Cézanne was quite a sort of an introspective and, I guess at times, solitary character. Perhaps he found a connection with the mountain in that kind of sense of solitude. The mountain is obviously sort of an incredibly imposing part of the landscape, but that's also what gives it its real draw. There's a lot of facets to it. There's a lot of sort of texture and colour that, as a painter, you'd sort of grapple with to try and get sort of the perfect depiction of it. And also the pine trees which frame this particular painting are everywhere around here, almost to the point where everywhere we stop, it looks like it could be the place where Cézanne painted, you know, this particular painting.
Landscape Artist of the Year winner Ben McGregor has come to the countryside around Aix-en-Provence to explore Montagne-Sainte-Victoire, muse of post-impressionist painter Paul Cézanne. So fascinated was Cézanne with capturing the mountain, he became interested not only in its outward appearance, but also in how the rock itself was formed. So, to follow in Cézanne's footsteps, Ben's venturing up the slope with local geologist Jérôme Ségard.
I love the way that you get just these boulders sticking out of the landscape. Tell me a bit about why people of this area are so kind of influenced by the mountain.
People from Aix-en-Provence, they have a very intimate link with the mountain. It's almost part of their family.
Cézanne obviously painted Sainte-Victoire many times. What did he understand about the geology here?
One of his best friends was a geologist.
Oh.
We found in his notebook the layers, the different name of the layers. The gray part, the upper part. This is limestone. And then you have the reddish part.
Yeah.
And the reddish part is from the destruction of the gray part.
Oh, I see.
That's the erosion.
So do you think it's important for an artist to understand the geology and the scientific side of the landscape?
Curiosity is important for an artist. So it's difficult to avoid the question when you see all those stones around us.
Agreed.
Cézanne's fascination with geology helped shape the radical innovations of his artistic practice. And in 1902, he built a studio in the foothills of Montagne-Sainte-Victoire. It's closed to the public, but Ben has been given permission to see it for himself.
This could actually be the final commission painting, this view from this window, because that would be awesome. You can't help but feel something from being here. I sort of walked in and we walked, and then I saw this, and it was almost like a perfect picture. I love that. It's just got something about it which could be the right direction for the commission.
Many of the items that once filled Cézanne's studio are today kept under lock and key in a nearby archive, to which Ben has also been granted special access.
Hello, Ben. I'm
Hi.
Stephanie. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. It's the famous still
Yes.
life statue. That's
Yes,
amazing.
exactly.
That's so cool. Yeah. I think this features in a still life at the Courtauld Gallery.
Yes, exactly.
Because this is so familiar to me.
Yes.
To see this in real life is pretty mind-blowing, actually. So this is the cane,
Yes.
I'm assuming.
Used, yes.
This is nice because it feels much more personal. It just makes you feel that bit more connected.
So it is the last object, and it's a very important one.
Oh, wow. It's still got paint on it as well.
Yeah.
This is incredible. So I'm assuming this is still Cézanne's paint on there.
Yes.
The colours are incredibly primary. He obviously did quite a lot of mixing as he was painting the pictures themselves. It was amazing to see these authentic Cézanne artifacts like that. Just get that bit closer to Cézanne as an artist and a human being.
Taking on what he's learned about the man himself, Ben has come to a nearby windmill known as Moulin Cézanne to attempt his own study of Montagne Sainte-Victoire.
The weather's taken a bit of a turn. Being out in the rain is sort of all part and parcel of plein air painting, and you get to capture a different kind of atmosphere and a different kind of mood in the landscape. The whole scene is amazing. There's just loads of really nice trees. You've got this kind of, the pine tree, the branches sort of coming into view, which I will put in there. Cézanne wanted to sort of understand the whole process, why things are how they are, and in order to understand that, you obviously need to know a bit about the geology. I like that because there's also obviously a science to painting as well, which is so useful to understand when you're constructing a picture and using different paints on different surfaces. I want the sky to be quite sort of flat. So basically now I've put the paint onto the white layer, it's almost stained the canvas. It's just a way I like to render the sky to create the feeling that it's sort of further back than, you know, what's going on in the foreground. Some paints are really, really transparent, and so they'll kind of glide across the surface. I've always found it's quite good for doing kind of rock because you can create this kind of scratchy effect. I'm so unprecise, it's not even funny. And if I feel a tree would be better to look slightly bigger or set slightly further back, then that's what I'll do, which is kind of quite a wonderful thing about being an artist, is you sort of get to play with the landscape in that way. The bit I really loved on this landscape was this kind of reddy pink ground that you see in the front, which looks really nice against the greens. To do a study of this place is great. It's a huge honor, but, you know, there's something sort of much bigger and sort of more difficult on the horizon. It's almost like looking at this mountain. That is the task. It's almost like getting to the top of this mountain is like the task that's in front of me. That's what it feels like now. And you sort of look at it and you think, there's like, how could I possibly get up there?
Ben's final stop on his trip is the Provençal city of Arles, where Vincent van Gogh arrived in 1888. Wanting to escape Paris and the pressures of the art world, Van Gogh came to the south, seeking inspiration.
I love these beautiful old shutters. Quirky little artifacts like this. Merci. During my visit to the Courtauld and my chat with Barnaby, he explained to me that Van Gogh came down to the south of France to get away from the hustle and bustle of Paris, and also because he was having a bit of a mental health crisis at the time. So he was looking for some kind of retreat and some solace to recover. I can really relate to Van Gogh, I think, in that sense. I've got a couple of quotes which Van Gogh wrote in his letters. always continue walking a lot and loving nature, for that's the real way to learn to understand art better and better.
Despite his mental turmoil, Van Gogh's time in Arles was possibly the most productive of his life. He spent many months exploring and painting the agricultural landscape around the town, captivated by the rural scenes and intensity of the light.
The landscape's absolutely stunning, really rugged, lots of trees. The light is just incredible, especially standing under the tree line where it dapples across the floor. I can see already some potential paintings emerge from the landscapes I'm looking at.
In Peach Trees in Blossom, painted just a year before he took his own life, Van Gogh experimented with a new vivid palette of blues and yellows, capturing the glittering heat of the sun in patterns across the canvas.
We're right in the heart of an olive grove, which is sort of classic Van Gogh territory. So I'm going to have to do my absolute best for it not to come across as a bit of a Van Gogh knockoff. It's boiling hot, it's early morning. It's an absolutely beautiful landscape to be in. It's the sort of thing I really like to paint. These are pre-framed canvases that I invented in the workshop, sprayed in that finish that I like to paint on top of, like a really smooth finish. There's kind of a few layers of landscape to look at. You've got this incredibly bright vineyard that the sun's really sort of reflecting. And then you've got the olive grove where we are, so there's quite a lot of depth to play with here. The ultra sort of smooth surface of the board allows the paint to slide across it really freely, which enables you to create really nice sort of brush marks. So I'll tend to block in the colours first. The problem is it's really, really hot. Hopefully the paints won't dry because I then like to work the paints over the surface of the canvas to create all the brush marks. So I have to experiment with how that's going to work here. So I'm just creating these little, almost like waves, because you've got all this amazing tree line kind of in the middle ground before you then get to the mountain itself. There's this wonderful breeze which sort of gusts through the olive grove and sort of makes all the trees move. So I'm trying to capture that with brush strokes, which is kind of what I do anyway, but I think my style of painting sort of lends itself quite nicely to that. I mean, there was so much movement in Van Gogh's paintings. A lot of that was down to his style of painting and brush marks, but I'm sure that, you know, he would have sat here in a similar location and felt very similar things. I think just experientially being in this landscape, I'll be able to take the feelings that I've got and my sort of approach to the painting in a kind of more metaphysical sense back to the studio to paint the final commission. Right now, I'm feeling really good. I don't think I could be more connected to the landscape right now. It's been an absolutely incredible trip to be on, so I'm sort of full of gratitude and joy and inspiration too. But at the same time, you know, I still haven't decided on a final commission piece. So that's slightly troubling. So I probably need to just go home and sort of process it all. But I think more than anything else, I just sort of feel incredibly humbled and perhaps slightly unworthy to sort of be here following in the footsteps of these kind of great masters. So I need to sort of make my peace with that and find, you know, some ideas and a direction which is kind of very personal to me and my journey here.
Winner of Sky Art's Landscape Artist of the Year, Ben McGregor, has returned from his trip across the south of France and come to rural Northamptonshire to paint his winning commission. A studio at his sister's home is providing a welcome space to reflect on the trip and the task ahead.
So, how's it going?
It's going okay, I think, but I still spend a lot of time worrying, yes, staring into space.
I'm over the moon that he's won Landscape Artist of the Year. Ben is a incredibly complicated but interesting, kind, quirky person, and that comes out in his art, and I'm delighted that he's been acknowledged in that way. I mean, to have a painting hanging in such a prestigious gallery is wonderful.
So I got back from France and for a few days still was unsure as to what I was going to paint. It needed to be something very personal, like a place where I got sort of a real feeling from. I've decided to do a view from Paul Cézanne's studio, but I've decided to incorporate sort of a different view from Moulin Cézanne. Tackling the mountain at one stage felt almost impossible, and I think by placing it within Cézanne's studio, which is a very human place, sort of gave me the ability to see it in my own way. So I'm just painting in the floorboards. Very, very nervous about the unveiling event.
Tonight, Ben's winning commission will be unveiled at the Courtauld Gallery.
I'm obviously feeling nervous. I've put my absolute soul into this picture. It feels incredibly exposing, to be honest. It's my entire sort of creative life almost put under a microscope in one moment. I just want it to be well received and liked, and in the moments before the curtain falls, I'm sure I'll just be a bag of nerves and a bit of a wreck.
I'm really excited because I think Ben's one of the more unusual winners that we've chosen, because he's got this sort of odd, edgy abstraction to his work.
He's so idiosyncratic.
Yeah.
And the way he puts paint on is so him. So I like the idea of this fusion between this beautiful south of France, these great vistas that we know from art history, and this very weird way of painting.
But, you know, is it sea? Is it mountain? Is it landscape? Is it pine trees?
Oh.
Is it starry night? You know, who knows what we're going to be looking at?
I can't wait. You've really whetted my appetite.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this very special occasion, the unveiling of the new Landscape Artist of the Year, Ben McGregor's winning commission. Yes. We are here in the Courtauld Gallery's Great Room, which is usually reserved for minor artists like Cézanne, Monet and Van Gogh. No pressure, Ben.
None taken.
We're also here with Barnaby Wright, Courtauld curator. Barney, what are you hoping for under this red drape.
What I really hope, more than anything, is that when we unveil this work, Ben will feel that what he's done, what he said he wanted to do, which was to pour his heart and soul into the picture, that you'll feel in some way you've achieved that ambition. And I hope, knowing Ben's modesty, I hope that maybe the most we can hope for is that he feels a sort of quiet pride in what you've produced.
That'll be a win for me.
You all right? You feeling good?
Yeah, I'm apprehensive, but excited. Yeah.
Well, should we put you out of your misery?
Go for it.
Right, here we go. I mean, there's a Van Gogh self-portrait with a bandaged ear.
I know.
It's just over there.
It's how I feel.
Right.
It's how I feel, really.
OK. I mean, they're taking 2 Renoirs down.
Get on with it.
Get on with it? All right, here we go. Well, Barney, I'm going to put you on the spot. You've only just seen it, but what do you think?
What an extraordinary picture. I mean, congratulations.
Thank you, Barney.
Absolutely fantastic. And we even have a reference to one of our other non-landscape Cézannes in the collection,
Yeah,
a still
exactly.
life with plaster Cupid here, which is, yeah, fantastic to see.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Landscape Artist of the Year, Ben McGregor.
Just wonderful. You know, your palette is very English, and so to adapt it in such a way that we can feel the heat coming off it and the sort of the misty Mont Saint-Victoire in the distance is fantastic.
Yeah.
Really beautiful.
And what you're so good at is texture. And in a way, you know, you sort of move that on for Cézanne with these little blocks of colour all the way. You know, you've got that richness on the tree trunks and that freneticness in the way in which you sort of built the tree heads, a bit like Van Gogh and Starry Night. It feels like you've taken little bits of each of them.
Just a bit like Van Gogh. I'm just bowled over, actually. It works on so many different levels, and all done in his inimitable style, which is this touch, this sensitive touch that vibrates. The whole painting sings, and it just fits in here perfectly.
Well, I'm hugely impressed. I think Ben's really, really pulled out all the stops for this picture. When that curtain came down, in quite a sort of split second, I think it just felt like something quite epic that he'd produced, something that one really felt immersed in immediately, and that perhaps is the mark of a really great painting.
Ben has stayed true to his authentic way of painting, but somehow by osmosis, he's managed to absorb just enough, just the right amount of influence from these artists to create a work that I think will sit on these walls confidently and will sort of encourage a lot of conversation about what landscape is today. So I think he's done us proud.
Wow. A sort of a plethora of emotions and excitement,
Well
and
done.
most
Well
of it
done.
overwhelming.
Cheers.
In terms of my artistic career, it's been the most significant thing that's happened. In terms of my life, it's up there, and it's been such a wonderful journey. So full of, like, just incredible moments that I'll remember and cherish for the rest of my life.
If you'd like to find out more about applying for the next series and the work of the featured artists, visit our website, skyartsartistoftheyear.tv.